included, oh, thank you, Anita. I forgot. Thank you. We'll be posting recordings of this talk and the previous one on our YouTube channel shortly. The exhibit is up and through November 22nd. So if you haven't seen it, there's still time. Please stop by during our open hours. If you're not familiar with our organization, Manhattan Graphic Center is a community print shop that supports the learning and practice of fine art printmaking. We provide an affordable, inclusive professional studio and exhibition space. Plus, we offer classes and other public programs, including artist talks and scholarships. Please visit our website, manhattangraphiccenter.org, to learn more about us. You can register for our upcoming artist talks, see our class offerings, and sign up for our mailing list. We would like to offer a great big thank you to the IFPDA Foundation for awarding us a generous grant, which made this exhibit and these talks and other programming possible. We also would like to thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, the Sherman Foundation, the Pierre and Tana Matisse Foundation, our members, and our other donors and friends, all who make our programming possible. We're going to be doing a Q&A after all the artists speak about their work. So if you have a question, go down to the chat and type it in, and afterwards we can ask your questions to the artists. And now I will hand things over to Tara.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the artist too, whose beautiful work is on display at Manhattan Graphic Center, and the show is on till one more week. Is that right, Robert?
It's up until the 22nd of next week.
It's like 1 week left. Before we give it to the artists to talk about their work and we see images of the work that they are showing, I'll give you a little summary of this exhibition and how it came about. In 2017, with Trump's election, I was feeling very upset and wanting to do something about it. And the something turned out to be looking into the migration crisis, which was also happening at the same time. And curating these shows became a way to research and my own preoccupation with why migration was happening. But it was already really obvious that they were being maligned in the medium and scapegoated. And it seemed like an extension of this kind of othering which was happening politically in the country, xenophobia, in other words. So I think when I was in America and seeing this, I was seeing this as like bad people and wrong things. But I went to India a few months later and I saw the same thing happening in India. There was a very totalitarian, fundamentalist Hindu majority that was targeting Muslims, and a new CAA, Citizens Amendment Act, was being passed, which was actually robbing Muslim citizens of their citizenship. Very serious things. And over that period, I think that period of 3 years, I was doing residencies in China and Germany and Italy and other places. And I noticed the discussion around migration and the sort of angle it took with their history. Like in Germany, it was like a revisionist of, going over what had happened. They had gone through with fascism and what they had learned from it, not learned from it. And anyway, it culminated in getting together with artists, with my friends, and and going back to my family of people whose work I admire and like, and doing shows. Artists do art, and we want to show our work, and so that's a very major part of this, to these shows. Why this idea was more appealing to me, because I realized over these years that the so-called person who hates the outsiders and the othering people, they're all intertwined and mixed in with us. There are uncles and aunts and grandfathers and people within our community. So the idea of these shows being that I invite 5 people to be in a show, and those 5 people will take the show to their locations. And they will take some people from the group and some new people. So we keep shuffling, and everywhere it goes, it's a new show and it addresses the particular location. So of late, we have had shows in Munster, Dusseldorf, Constance, Kansas City, Rosendale, Lincoln, Nebraska, Michigan, and a big one in Delhi. The one in Delhi was the biggest show. It had 33 artists, and we did a huge seminar at the same time with it. And the seminar actually coincided with this CAA business that was going on, and it became like a platform to talk about the totalitarianism happening in India, but not naming it, but to do it through it. And it was actually really effective. And in America, we've had these, in New York City, we've had the shows at 5 Miles Gallery this last summer, and at Wilbur Jennings Gallery. And so this one at Manhattan Graphic Center is our 11th show. We had bookings in many places, and with COVID, everything is undecided, so I will not announce things. But as I said, it's just like a group of artists who get together and we keep changing it. We changed what the shows are about too. If there are people in the audience, by the way, who are interested in this, they can get in touch with me. It would be great. Now, to make it very clear that we are not refugees. I mean, I said that in the last talk, and Tanya Kellner said she corrected me. She was a refugee. So we are, on the whole, not refugees, but we are talking for the refugees. But more than that, we're talking about our own in-betweenness. We're talking about, we're highlighting the fact that there's so many, 95 million displaced people in the world today. In 2017, there were 80 million. And the causes of this are so many. I mean, it's colonization, climate change, inequitable distribution of wealth, which goes on, and power dynamics within the countries. But of course, war and internal strife as well. And these people who are fleeing are really desperate, and they can't talk about themselves. I mean, if you've ever been a child and known how helpless you are when you're a child and nobody believes you and nobody has time for you. So somebody has to talk for them. And so we are, in a way, artists who are standing up for them. But we are not refugees. And what we are coming up with is our own in-betweenness. And we as artists belong to 2 or more cultures, and we live with the uncertainty of what that means. That we are Americans. We are also part of another place, and we liaison and we work with it. Some ways it works for us, and some ways it doesn't. And it's just a way of living with uncertainty. And I think it's really good news for a world that wants to have certainty in terms of totalitarian identification, like this is who we are, and this is me, and the other is the other. So I think with that, I'll stop. And I hope in the questions and answers we have with the artists, they can also tell us something about themselves. And of course, their work and what they're doing now and what they want to do in the future, but also address something about this whole idea of being the other and how they see themselves in this. So, Robin, should we start with the images?
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now so everybody can see the images.
So we're going to begin with Rie. Hi, Rie.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Ria is a printmaker, and she has been, I think we've got the wrong, yeah, that's right. And Ria has been a printmaker, and I have known her for the longest time at the Robert Blackburn workshop and enjoyed working with her too. And she is, she does, well, she's going to tell you herself, but she's also a master printer. Ray, would you like to tell us just something about your work,
Okay.
and then you can also let us know where you were born and something about that. And then
Okay.
about this piece.
All right. I thought I didn't think that I'm gonna go first, so I was I thought like I have to listen to what other
Oh,
people
don't worry, I can walk you
are
through it.
saying.
So, Ria, you're a printmaker mostly, right? Or do you do other things too?
Yeah, I call myself maybe printmaker. Yeah, but during the pandemic I started doing like more 3D stuff,
Wow.
like paper mache. But basically I like drawing, so anything related to drawing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And where were you born, Ria?
I was born in Tokyo, Japan.
Okay, and how old were you when you came here? Oh, how old when you left your Japan?
Well, that's okay. They can mask my age. But I came here when I was 29.
Ah,
In 2000.
was that the first time you left the country?
Well, I was visiting. I don't know, like 5 months is like a visiting or leave. Like I was in New Zealand for 5 months.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
before I moved to New York.
And you've been here since?
Sorry?
You've been here since?
Yes, since 2000. Yeah.
Something. Okay, all right, okay. And how has that been for you? Tell us something about what you have been doing all this time here, and how you felt. More about how you felt. I mean, how you felt as being a Japanese person here, and as being an American person who has come from Japan, over the time. Because
well, it's been a long time. Like I was originally planning to stay here only for like 3 years, but then I forgot the time, and then it's time fly like this, and so it's hard to say like there's such a short like sentence like how it's been like. But because culturally, like I was pretty shy. I'm still kind of shy, but I was shy, very, very shy when I was in Japan. But here, like everybody speak up and are very, they are very good at, telling people what they feel, what they think, and so. Speaking up is not like our strong suit, so I was struggling to do so, but I think I'm getting a little better at it. But I still like a language, like even like I've been here for a long time, but English is still my problem, because it's a structure is such a different the way I think. There the way I put in words, it's a little bit different from the Japanese.
Right. Maybe, I mean, I totally get that, because, like some cultures, one doesn't, you don't express your feelings verbally as much, but I think like you do it in your art, so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's like a little bit related to it, because I didn't know how to express myself. So And then when I was Japan, so like Japanese people, they actually want to be same as others. So if you were a little bit different, you feel very, very maybe like a little bit uncomfortable. So I was not eccentric or anything like that, but it's like I was maybe a little bit different. So, but then I couldn't, like express myself because I was very shy. So then when I started making art.
Yeah. Ria, would you like to talk about the picture that we have here?
This
Shepherd.
one, yeah, so it's actually, I made this for a book project. It's called My Home, My City. I was invited to make a print to for the art book project with maybe 10, 12 artists, like half of them are Peruvian and half of them are Americans. So this was actually the book. So the part of the book project, and this is pretty straightforward. And then it's because it's the book is I don't know if you can see it. So it's you have to fold in half.
Okay.
So like a half of me in New York and a half of me in Japan, and
oh, I see.
Kind of bittersweet feeling, like I even like I'm here, like this is my home, like in New York, it's my home now, but
oh, I see. So the left half is Japan and the right half.
Sort of, yes. And then like, it's the kind of my memory, my people, my family, it's still pulling me back,
Right, they push it.
But that's like, it's not going to happen. So it's, so that's, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's half.
Okay.
Half.
Yeah, you're definitely, you're swimming with the current towards America, towards this side.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you'd like to share about the whole idea of being from another place and being here?
Yeah. So I think when I lived there, I didn't appreciate my culture enough because I didn't know. So since I came here, I could look at my culture a little bit better.
That's very true.
Yes, I appreciate more now.
Right.
But at the same time, of course, why I'm here is like I get inspired from like New York art and New York people, and
right, and you can do what you want to do. You found a way to do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's nobody care if you're weird, different, crazy. So that's why I like about it very much. So not just art, or like even like gender or nationality or anything. I want to make something like a borderless, anything, like so I'm still Japanese, and part of me maybe so Americanized.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't want to make a line, and then like actually I know you talk about like race and stuff like what I was gonna say.
Not even race as much as just different cultures, like carrying multitude.
Right. I don't feel comfortable being actually others. I think I'm lucky enough to be in the community that they don't separate me as a big others, or maybe like because I've been here for such a long time, and maybe I forgot about like where at the beginning, because my English, there's still not not that good, but it's like at the beginning, my English was much worse, and people, you know, a lot of people teach me or like so, but yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky that like I don't feel like isolated or you know, alien.
That's really good to know. So, really, we're going to move on to the next person.
Okay.
And, if there's just one sentence you want to say about what you want to work on next or what you're working on at present, just one quick sentence and we'll move on.
Okay, yeah. So like I study making art like more like therapeutic purpose, but like recently what is happening, ongoing situation, this country, foreign country, my country. So my art is more like more focus on more political issue, like a cares what is happening, you know, in this world. So that's what I've been working on, and maybe I'm gonna work on those kind of things for a while.
Look forward to seeing it. So just in the interest of time, Ray, we got to move on. Let's go to Justin next. Hi, Justin. I'm so happy, like
Hi.
with all the others, to have you in the show as well.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me.
yeah. And so, Justin, again, I'm not going to say anything. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you're based, where you have been based, where you were born, where you grew up, or anything about your parents, or just
Sure.
the cultural part of it. And then we'll talk about these specific works.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm a master printer and the workshop manager of the EFA Robert Blackburn printmaking workshop. So I do printmaking for artists. You know, I make artists prints and then also manage the workshop and do administrative things at the Robert Blackburn. But then I'm also an artist on my own too. And so I make prints and some animations. I also do painting. I've done some sculptural things in wood. Sorry if you hear a baby crying in the background. And yeah, also a new father. But yeah, mostly focused on printmaking for my own work. And I was born in New York. I grew up in Long Island, but sorry, can you hear that? Can you hear him screaming in the background?
Fine, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and my father is a Colombian immigrant, and he moved here when he was 13 and grew up in Colombia. And I think you know, my mother has been here, like my roots in New York on my mother's side go back like at least 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been, you know, her family's been here for a while, but then my father just came here when he was 13 from Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in Long Island, and then pretty much lived in New York my whole life. But I guess, you know, I've always felt some kind of in-betweenness with my own self, like being, you know, like Latino and basically like white, you know, like Italian, German, Frenchish, you know, from my grandmothers. But yeah, I always felt a little, you know, in between culturally. But, you know, I think these pieces are like really, well, this one specifically, this is, you know, feeling more of like an in-betweenness with society and kind of the, you know, like the rules of capitalism and the society that we live in, and feeling like it doesn't really have our own like human interests at heart. You know, that it like capitalism puts making money over the well-being of the society and the people like in our society. And so yeah, just like reacting to that, and you know, thinking about how just basically we're not being taken care of, and we don't really know, like we have all of these, like all the things that we're given in society, but we don't really know what goes into it to have them. Like we don't, like I feel like it's very unclear, like what America's doing, internationally, and it's hard to like actually figure out what's happening. But then you hear, snippets of things like, starting wars or, like funding wars and that kind of thing. But then, also knowing that we don't have like universal health care, and that there's like such a divide of wealth in the country. Yeah, so those are the things I was thinking about with this piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Called Colonial Paradise.
yeah, so so that other piece was a monotype too. It was a watercolor monotype. And then this one is a reduction wood block. And so I made this piece in 2017 after reading a book that was called An Indigenous Person's History of the United States of America.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. And so it was a real, like wake up call for me, because it was a lot different than the history that I had learned growing up, as far as the Native Americans were concerned. And so, the book just goes into how basically, the only way that America was able to take over the land was, just by murdering like indiscriminately like women and children, and just being like more ruthless, and and stealing land. And then just how it's the basis for our military today, like stealing land and taking over from Native Americans is, there's even some terminology that they use that's similar, that they started, when they were taking over Native American land. And then, yeah, so it's just kind of like this, the piece is an embodiment of, my expression of like what's happened like through that, and how our like a society being based on such like, such like pain and hatred is kind of, this is what we're like coming out with now with pollution and, bombing and that kind of thing. So the whole thing is kind of within a ship, is like the structure of it, but then also, thinking about pollution. And it's all tied together with the previous piece too, just how it's, focus on money, making money and making profits instead of like the environment or human life.
Perfect. It totally belongs in this show, this piece. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It's all the things that has then made the world what it is, and which is also the cause of migration today, and the refugees fleeing for, this is the devastation. This is the price the West has paid for, we have paid, the rest of the world has paid for the affluence here, in a way.
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of, and like the bottom left, it's like an oil spill,
Right.
And trash, and then it's kind of like being pulled, like the earth is being pulled away, and there's this like carcass of, skulls behind.
I'm sure all the people listening and we would love to hear your feedback too, but I relate so much personally with both what Ria has said and Justin. And like Ria, I was born in another country, and I really enjoy being in New York. I like the freedom of New York. I love my artist community. And like Ria said, to find a way to survive as an artist, which was maybe it would have been different somewhere else. And at the same time, realizing that this wealth and this comfort and this thing, it is, you can't close your eyes to this, because your parents live there, and you have you know people all the time, and you see, you know, when something happens internationally, you see it, you know what the government wants you to hear, to know and believe, but you also know, you know better, you know the price. So so this is the dilemma that one lives in. Justin, would you like to tell us something about what you're working on now? And actually, we'll end with that, but I just want to take this moment to also give a sort of applause for Bob Blackburn, which is the workshop where Justin works now. And Bob was like the person who sort of epitomized this openness, where, you know, his workshop was like a ship for people from all over the world to just have an in-between place to be in. And that's how I came here, and that's how a lot of people came here. And today too, a lot of people come through that place. And it is, would you agree, Justin?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Robert Blackburn was an amazing person. And I think a lot of the sentiments that you just expressed are shared by millions of, or thousands of people, because he was just giving back so much to the community, and really, but also, you know, focusing, like not really focusing on making money, but focusing on giving back to the community and helping people to learn, like through printmaking. And we try to embody that today as much as we can.
Right. And also, there's a very good point you made, because printmaking, you know, like what I've been seeing now, what's happening to printmaking is becoming more of a elite place where you know, like famous, no, let's not say famous, let's just say selling artists get their work, get beautiful prints made of their work because they're very saleable. So it's becoming a lot of that market, but printmaking also has this history of being a very inclusive place and a very community-based place.
Right. But I do think that printmaking did have a history of being exclusive too, which is, you know, like why Robert Blackburn wanted to start his own workshop.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's always been like the two sides of it.
Both sides, yes. But I don't mind the other side as long as we can have the community aspect as well.
Right.
Something about what you're working on now, or something like you want to share with us about going forward? Any art themes and
well, Rie and I have a show right now up at Manhattanville College that's going to be open till the end of the month. And it's actually, the show's called 17 Years, because Rie and I have both been working together at Robert Blackburn for 17 years. And so it's like a chronological show of the work that we've made from like 2005 till present day. I think that's the most exciting thing that's happening right now with us, with me and the work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People letting us know. When is it on till, the show?
Till the end of December. And it's like, it's 45 minutes
right
up north.
It's a great place. With that, we go to Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, of course. Again, pleasure to have you in this show. Mary's been in a couple of other shows, migration shows as well.
Thank you so much, Tara. I'm just going to dive right in. So I was born in suburban Long Island in a split level house. And I feel like it was split in a multitude of ways. And, you know, there was what happened outside the house, the rest of suburbia and that time period in the US. You know, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. But then there was also what was going on in their house, which was a totally different type of world and time period. And people often ask me, like, so what language was spoken in that house? And while there was English and there was Shanghainese being spoken, really the most pervasive language was that of sorrow. And I think the sorrow was so many things. It was about fleeing. It was about wartime trauma, who was left behind, you know, and who later on was persecuted, and how many died of unnatural deaths, you know, and that kind of guilt. You about the people who were left behind, and what they did or didn't have and what we had. And, so much, it's such a complicated history and very layered. So none of this, of course, was ever said. You don't really say this to little children, but it was certainly felt. And it's been something that I've been unraveling. But on the other hand, there was this incredible nurturing from my mom due to her love of culture and art and nature. And she made everything in the house. And that was such a counterpoint to the incredible sadness. It was all this making and doing and all the life in her garden. So I would say, in contrast to the formal education of, art school, Parsons, and, my MFA, and then the time period I spent in Beijing at the Central Academy, really in as a counterpoint to that was really the incredible education I got at home, which was really about just making things as part of your life. And that appreciation of the handmade, and also as nature, like the plants played an outsized role in my childhood and today. So those two things, and that I think that's part of why, as a teacher, I teach in two departments. I teach in studio art and also in environmental justice. And they're both, I think, equally important to me. So now, as far as this work goes, it's part of a series. It's called The Other Garden. And that whole concept of another garden, a garden other than the garden, the Adam and Eve garden, which is a garden, a dominion-centric garden, about judgment. And it's a longing for something else. And maybe if you can go to the next image. So with this one, Centipede Gardener, you can see it's still that same, the black image is flip-flopped. It's the same one as in the prior one. And it's a silk screen. It's a one-of-a-kind silk screen. And there's also a lot of rubber stamping in there and watercolor and cutouts. So a lot of this was, the wood block image. If you look at it on the top and in the middle, you see a human-like figure that's kind of hairy and has a tail. That image is from the Book of Seas and Mountains. And that is a geographical, it's a compendium, it's a bestiary of sorts of what was imagined in other lands. This is a Chinese text, and it's really I think, unique. And it's very much a case of othering also as well. Like there's a lot of fantastical animals in that bestiary kind of aspect, but also othering in that, oh, these are the people who lived in the Western mountains or lived over there. And of course they have, all these irregularities and tails and multiple heads and things like that. But it's a fantastical book. And I was kind of really amazed by it when I first came upon it. And, in this case, because of the negative and positive and the cutouts and the shadows, it's kind of putting it all into a blending and a kind of camouflage. And it's a longing for a world or a garden where humans and nature are not, we're not destroying and looking everything as a resource, something to be extracted. And the person is not any more important than that centipede, right? And so the emphasis, the title is The Centipede Gardener. So as far as that whole in-betweenness aspect goes, I mean, I think when I grew up, we were the only Chinese family in our town. So that was always, a part of everything is feeling a bit different. And I have a particular memory of my dad. I was a little kid when we were walking through the Museum of Natural History. And I always loved the sections with the taxidermied animals, the dinosaurs. But in this case, we were walking through the Hall of Asian Peoples. And my dad was really kind of distressed by the displays. And he felt that it did not reflect living cultures. And he's like, but we're still alive. And he felt that the way the displays were, it just felt like a past tense, and that, we were just like the dinosaurs, perhaps. perhaps extinct. So that was kind of an early awareness of this sort of institutional othering.
Mhm.
And then always, I feel like with my Beijing relatives, there's always this kind of like a little bit of a judgment, a little bit of trying to see who your allegiance is. Among Chinese, there's a lot of that, I think, and it's increasing again. With, are you a mainlander? Are you from Taiwan or from Hong Kong? Or, who do you align with? So that's unfortunate. Is this kind of nationalistic emphasis. And as far as the othering of others, I mean, I feel like that's a perpetual case of learning, because we were all indoctrinated in, histories that are incomplete or false, misinterpretations. So that's a constant thing. And I think one learns a lot when you're teaching, and how you approach things and reactions from students, being such a diverse community. But overall, I would say that in between us is a strength, right? And I think a lot of the positive aspects of being in New York is that it allows you for this real embracement, and I don't mean this in a corny way, of that diversity and of that critical thinking, right? The parallels, the analysts, analyzing, questioning. So those are all really good things. And as far as where I'm going with the work, I mean, I feel like Chinese modern history has always been such a major part of my family. And I pretty much, inadvertently became a bit of the archivist. So a lot of that, I think, is going to be coming out in future work. And I have ideas about doing some kind of like an illustrated memoir type piece or series or book about my mom. But charting it in a kind of unusual way, like, for example, from her traveling, from her going to school in Nanjing. At that time, it was the only college that women could attend. It was a very famous Jinling University, and she saved this precious mushroom that all the girls would pick. It's considered like a magical mushroom, a linzu, and I still have it. Right. And so charting that mushroom to, the later on when she came to the US and after she was married and lived in Bayside, and then the mushroom from the Bayside, Alley Pond Park. So, trying to look at things in a myriad of ways. And just having some fun and not worrying so much about deadlines and all these kind of formalities of being an artist, but going back to the fun making things and the experimental parts of being an artist.
Sounds great, Mary. Thank you so much. You ticked all the boxes and more, so I'm not going to ask you anything in particular, but yes, totally, I have particularly enjoyed having you in the shows because and this was pointed out in India as well, because your work talks about, a lot about nature and animals. And actually, I've had your work in shows in America too, but in India, they really said, yes, I mean, we really understand this thing with, like you were talking about, how we share the world with animals and what migration and all that does too. So it sort of sheds a very specific light on things. Can we go to Luanda now? And I think Trokon has not been able to make it, right? So let's do Luanda, and then I don't see Trok. Let's do Luanda, and then we can open it to questions. Is Luanda, are you?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Tara. Hi, everyone.
I can't see.
I apologize for not having the video on.
Okay.
Most important is you guys hear me well.
Sure. And when I saw the work that you were doing recently, and it's all about it, migration. I was delighted to have you in this, and it's if you want to just tell us something in the same way about your background, and then you can just take it from here, or if you want me to prompt you, that's fine too, whichever way you like.
Yes, I'll start giving you briefly about my personal life.
Uh-huh.
I was born in Umpata, a town in the region of Huila in Angola, a former Portuguese colony.
Okay.
Angola got its independence in 1975. I was born in 1973, so I was part of that transition. And one of the reasons why my parents left the country was because the political situation, the fights for independence. So when they left, they went to Portugal, spent a few months in Portugal, and then they went to Madrid. And from Madrid, my mother flew with me and my twin brother, I have a twin brother, back to the Dominican Republic where they come from. So there, I grew up in the Dominican Republic. I studied art there in an art school at La Romana, a city in the north part of the country. And from there, I got a scholarship to come to the United States. And I studied at Parsons School of Design.
Okay.
At Parsons, I got connected to people that were working at Blackburn Studio at that time. Actually, next year will be 30 years since I joined the Blackburn Studio. It's been a long time. But yeah, so I fell in love with printmaking, and I consider myself a printmaker. And I love the fact that when I got to Blackburn, it wasn't about where I was coming from or my identity itself. It was just about working together. And that sense of working in the community was so international.
Yeah.
That was the fact that I could just grow my identity, grow my work without thinking about any personal statements. And the people that were around me at that time, the richness of the place, being so international, like I could learn a little bit of everything from everyone. It really enriches my work. In this series of work that I did for this show, I was experimenting with layers, and I'm the type of person that married to certain type of papers, and I found a way to communicate the language, the message through the dry point and monotype for these particular works. And these works are about migration, about to thousands of people traveling legally from the Dominican Republic to Puerto Rico every year. So having a conversation with my mother, I got the idea of how to portray these events that got intense during COVID. Like people, after it stopped for a period of time, and then when COVID arrived, the illegal traveling started again in the Dominican Republic. The way we got to this conversation was because my mother caregiver was telling her that she was going to take a boat to go illegally to Puerto Rico. And that's how this conversation started. The portrait of this particular print that you're looking at now is called In Memorial to Maria. Maria was a 42 years old lady who took a boat from the Dominican Republic with a group of people, about 90 people, to Puerto Rico. But unfortunately, the boat capsized and they couldn't make it. So she died and she was pregnant. She was 4 months pregnant. So reading about the story really impacted me. So it really added to the series of work. The same intensity of the subject matter, I wanted to portray that in my work. So the layers of prints on top of the monotype and the dry point, I wanted to have that feeling, that conversation that I had. I wanted to portray that in those works. This is unique pieces. I didn't do an edition, and I'm going to continue with this series of work. I started the first one in 2010 and kind of stopped that a series of over. Now I'm going back because of the situation right now, not only in the Dominican Republic, but in other places in Africa, the constant, people suffering, not only taking illegal votes, but also going by land. So all this happening in the news is also affecting the way I think and influencing in my work. About the betweenness, of course, going back to the Dominican Republic, being born in Africa, coming back to the Dominican Republic. It was funny because people often deny that they are Black in the Dominican Republic. You never hear any Dominicans say I'm Black openly, not there. When I came here, I was proud to say I'm Black. I was born in Africa. I didn't have the fear that they were gonna push me because I was gonna say openly what I was. So in that regards, I felt the freedom. I can be who I am. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to dress a certain way. I don't have to fix my hair a certain way just to fit into the society. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that my work is, the language that I try to portray in my work is being understood by the viewer. And that's my main focus. The people can see my work, can study my work, can read behind the lines, and can take the message that I'm trying to portray.
That's great, Luanda. That your work completely fits in the show too. That's definitely apparent. So, Luanda, do you go back to the different places that you've been in? Like, have you gone back to Africa where you were born, or?
I went to South Africa in 2008.
Okay.
I went with Elizabeth Harrington with a grant that we got through the Paulo Krasner Foundation. And we worked there for 3 weeks at the Artist Proof Studio with Kim Berman. And it was a great experience because when I was there, I felt like I was home, like I belonged there. So it was really impactful to my work to be able to work with them there and share experience and share history together. So it was very impactful.
Do you want to tell us something about what you're working now, or you're looking forward to, or any?
Yes, I have. Well, about the shows, I am currently in a show called Matrix, Prints by Women Artists 1960 to 1990, and that's at the Hudson River Museum. And next year they're starting again the tour with the show Printing the Revolution, and it's opening on February 4th at the Hut Museum of Art in Hanover, New Hampshire, and June 28th at the Frieze Art Museum in Tennessee. So I'm looking forward for all these shows. I'm working in large scale prints, and I'm doing collaboration with artist Moses Ross. So I'm looking forward to show the new prints.
Fantastic. Sounds really good. It sounds like a wonderful time in your life, and you have a little one too, right?
Oh, keep me busy. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, Robin, could
Yes.
you let me know if Trokon managed to make it, and if not, we can just do our last sentences and then open it to questions. I don't see him here in the list that I have. I can on the side. Trokon said that he had some kind of shooting that he was busy with today, that he might try to come in late.
Yeah, I don't see him here. So
Okay, so maybe we can wind up now, and then we can open it to questions, and the 5 artists who are here can also ask each other questions if they like. Of course, I'm really, I mean, I have really enjoyed doing these shows so much from the point of view of what we do, but it's also a large part of it is just my affection and my admiration for the artists that I have shown, and their work and their commitment to their work and their commitment to doing work which straddles different cultures and is honest to themselves. And one of the things, I don't know if it was Justin or if it was or Mary, I forget who mentioned this, but when we live in times when it's so prescribed that this is who I am and the other is that, like, white people are like that or black people are like that, and this is it actually robs the individual of having a choice to find their own unique selfhood. It's like, so like boys have to be too much like boys and they can't have other sides, and like with women, or like with gender, with culture as well. And so I think that is a more open world that we make for ourselves is definitely rewarding, not just for the other, not just for the refugee who's walking to the shore and wondering what it's going to be like in this new place, not just for them, but for us itself, for the people on the shore who live by themselves. I think I could just say my ending part now, which is that these shows are really not about, I don't see myself as an intellectual at all or as an activist even. I'm an artist and I work and I think with my hands more than I think with my mind. And it's just wonderful to meet other artists like myself who are doing the same thing. And I think we are stronger when we show together, and we make more of an impact when we show in places which are other than our own comfort places. Like I've had shows in America where people have come and said, "Oh, we really like you. You're really nice." And it's like, obviously you'd like me. It's not that I doubted you'd like me, but it's just like, you don't know people like me. So, so very often it's like, all these prejudices run rampant when you don't know people and you don't sort of see their eyes and hear their stories. So on a very innocent level, I think to just like infiltrate and go other places, it just, it creates great movement. And I think the last word I say about political art, there's a lot of political art in the world, and my problem with political art only is that if it's pointing the finger outside to the people outside of this room, they are the bad people. We are all the good and they are the bad ones. I think that is where it just seems so easy. I think it's better to be in a position where we talk about our own in-betweenness, of our own brokenness, of our own othering that we do, and also of people, like people do of us, or to talk in an open way so that it can open this space. Because otherwise it's just a blame and shame game, and there's no point in doing that. Well, that's the last thing I'll say. So thank you very much. And thank you to Manhattan Graphics for giving us this opportunity. And Robin, if you'd like to say something and then open it to questions.
Yeah, I would. Well, first of all, I really want to thank you, Tara, and all the artists for sharing about your work. It was really great to hear you talk about it. Yeah, I would like to open it up to questions. So if anybody has a question or a comment, please put it in chat, and we can ask the artist directly. I'm not seeing any there, so if anyone would like to ask a question, just put it in chat, or actually you could unmute yourself and ask the artist directly. So just let me know. Anyone got any questions? Okay, I guess not. I guess,
And-
so Anne, why don't you unmute yourself and,
Okay, I'm happy to unmute myself. Again, I wanted to thank Tara and thank all of the artists who are participating in the artist talk tonight. I'm a printmaker at Manhattan Graphic Center and was partly responsible for writing a grant to the IFPDA to get some funding in order to host this exhibit. And we put it out there that we wanted to host, and this is to be the first of shows of, I guess we put it as socially relevant, socially impactful shows. And I really think that this Migration Stories is socially impactful in so many different ways, so many of the different themes that you spoke of tonight, all the different artists. And I thank you, for sharing some of your own, your own personal history, your insight into your work, and also some of your political thoughts or non-political. Tara is very good at separating certain kind of politics out of, we're not talking that kind of politics. We're talking about really thoughtful, nuanced politics. It's not just kind of sloganeering kind of politics. And that really comes through in your work. Picking up a little bit of what Justin was saying, I appreciated that he put in the word capitalism, because that, to my mind, and there's an element about, maybe I'm not an immigrant from someplace else, but certainly I do not feel like, I feel like an other in America too. And I think that something of what different artists here have spoken to who have grown up or come from parents who've grown up in different places is that you're very sensitized in a very good way to nationalism when it arises, whatever forms it's taking. So I think that's an important thing. I think certainly it's been used to divide people. And Tara was speaking of the ways that this kind of work and this kind of show and your perspectives as artists brings a sense of mutual understanding, of togetherness. It cuts across that. I think somebody else spoke of an internationalness to the printmaking world that we try to create. And I think these are all extremely important values which come through in all of your work. And I look forward to meeting you and continuing to see your work. And I hope that you continue to stay in touch with us at Manhattan Graphic Center and vice versa. We'll look out for your shows. And yeah, so thank you again.
Thank you. Would the artists like to ask any questions to each other or anything like that?
I mean, if you'd like to speak with each other, just unmute and ask away.
Or comment on anything that has come up for them in this discussion?
No, I guess not. Okay. I guess if there's no other questions or comments, I just want to again thank you all for participating. This was a great talk. I'd also like to thank everyone who's joined us. A reminder, please visit our website at manhattangraphiccenter.org to sign up for future talks, see our other events, our classes, and also sign up for our mailing list. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to keep up to date. And please visit Migration Stories if you haven't seen it. It's up through the 22nd of next week. I guess that's it. So I'll say good night. And again, thank you all so much. This was really great.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, artists. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all. Thank you.